Hello and welcome to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast. Finally, we have Paul back on the show. We missed you. How are you doing, Paul?
Thanks, mate. What an introduction. I feel lovely, especially now.
Oh, great, great. It's so good to have you back. It's not that we didn't have some pretty good episodes in the last couple weeks, but it just wasn't the same without you.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, you did a wonderful job, and Anna and Sean were awesome. I really like listening to them.
Now that being said, I just want to take a quick minute before we start the episode just to announce that I am going to be taking a bit of a hiatus from the show for a few weeks. It's indeterminate at the moment, but it won't be too long. I do promise I will be back. I love working on the show very much, and I am not walking away from it. I just have a few things I need to tend to, and I just I uh, as much as I love working on the show, and I've always put this as a high priority for myself, there are a few things that I do start to need to put a little bit more focus back on. So I just need a little bit of time to take care of a few things. I will be back when I am ready. I'm not sure when it is. This is nothing bad. It's nothing to be concerned about. I just, the show is almost a year old. We've been doing this almost every single week since we started, and it's just I guess consider it like a sabbatical. In the meantime, Paul is going to continue the show without me, which is great. I would love personally to see how Paul at the helm of the show for a little bit and see. I think that'd be a huge learning experience for both of us to see his take and for him to learn how to do things that normally is left for me. So just you won't hear my voice for a few weeks here, but don't worry, everything will be back to normal very soon.
Yes, brace yourselves for a severe drop in quality all around. From content to editing, and no, but I was really sad when you first told me, mate. Until you reassured me to be back, I think I played Jurassic Park theme on the piano and wept a little bit until just waiting for that response text of yours to come back. But as long as you're coming back, I think it's all right. And that was everybody out there, just get off his back, all right? I know you're gonna bug him about it. He's gonna take break. I'll do my best. Obviously, it won't be nearly the same without you. But I'll do my best to entertain people, and I would like to bring on as many people as I can, because one guy into a mic is kind of So hopefully, you guys can look forward to hearing from some people in the community.
And with that being said, let's move on with the show. So, Paul, of all the games that you've personally played to completion, are there any where you ever felt very unsatisfied by the ending?
Oh god, yeah, I love complaining, mate, and I find ways to do so even when not warranted. So yeah, and in this case, there's plenty of games that warrant being, disappointed in the ending.
Mm-hmm. Which is which is what I kind of figured. I think a lot of us can relate to that. Think a lot of gamers in general, in all sorts of media, books, movies, possibly even music. There's a lot of times where the ending just doesn't quite live up to the experience that led up to that ending. So I think now would be a good time to talk about some of our, not just the most disappointing endings, but just basically which game endings have we played that we wish that we could change. So what would we do differently if we could pick games and redo how it ends?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we're going to tell people how to do things better in hindsight. Everyone loves that.
There's no higher form of creativity than backseat criticism.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not a big sports guy, so I need some outlet to sit on the couch and yell about doing the jobs better. And I'm sorry, game devs, but it's you.
Let me start on this one, just because there's as soon as you mention disappointing endings or endings that you would like to change, there's an immediate elephant in the room, and everyone's just waiting for this one. I'm going to right away address Mass Effect 3. It's everyone's heard of the disappointment of the Mass Effect 3 ending. Some people like it, because everything that ever exists, there's the people who like it, even if a lot of people overwhelmingly don't, and vice versa. But Mass Effect 3 for me, I think was actually not that bad once they expanded on it. Once they kind of lengthened the ending a little bit more, it kind of had a little bit more of a satisfying feel to it. I get that people are disappointed that it came down to just simply choosing which ending that you want, and I get that. I still don't think it's the ideal ending, so I'm not really defending it against the criticisms. But at the same time, I think it would have been. I personally would have just liked if they did a Fallout style ending where they just basically give like a quick epilogue for every single little side story and subquest that you did along the way, just to give you a little bit of closure on, the effects and consequences of what you've done throughout the series. I think as long as they threw that in, I would have been completely satisfied, or well, I mean, 95% satisfied, enough for me to not really complain too bad about the ending anymore.
How was the wording? Because it sounds extremely unimaginative and very uncryptic, what you'd want it to be. Like, the last thing I'd want is like, hey, choose good or bad. Like, make it some sort of a, I don't know. Like,
it was more words than that, but that was basically what it was. They pretty much told you, okay, if you want to be a good person, then do that. Or, if you want to be the paragon, do this. If you want to be the renegade, do this. It was really kind of just very, I think there was maybe like a neutral ending too. So I think there are three possibilities. If you do everything exactly right, there's kind of like a little bit of a add-on to the ending that shows that Shepard survived, because the general ending is that Shepard, your character, dies.
Right, yeah, I get that. A lot of the games I'm going to mention have that bloody same problem where it really wouldn't take much more to satisfy me. Like another, in some cases, just another epilogue or just another 5 minutes of the game or whatever. I don't need much more, but some of the games just stop just too bloody short. It seems like developers get like fatigue sometimes, and you can really feel that in the game where. And a lot of times it's earned and everything, but I feel like I've played a good handful of games, commercial or not, that end where you could just tell the developers, like, I gotta get fuck out of here, mate. I've been doing this for 3 years. Apparently apparently I had a child. I'm not sure. It's just you could feel them just getting antsy, in my opinion, and the pacing just gets really wonky, where it just takes a nosedive and we're out. Credits,
We've been in crunch for 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Just let us out. So I guess if we consider those kind of our honorable mentions, just sort of not that they necessarily had a bad ending, just they didn't really have an ending at all. What would be some of your picks for some of the games that just needed just a little bit more, just because it wasn't satisfying? Like, there wasn't really an end to justify the game that you played up to that point.
I think a good example of relating to that thing you said to me a minute ago in the form of a question, i.e. your question, it would be Gold Rush, Sierra's Gold Rush. I love that game. It's a bit of a bitch. It's a beast of a game. There's some really, just EGA tropes in that game. There's a maze in it, which I always hate mazes in games, but especially when, and as in this case, when it's like a dark maze that's lit by a torch or whatever, so you can't even see if you've done something wrong, you don't even know where you've done it wrong. So oh my god, it takes something that makes it last forever, and Gold Rush does that. There's another part of Gold Rush, critique wise, and I'm making a point with this about the ending. Another point in Gold Rush where you bloody mine for gold out by a riverbed, and you basically just have to hit enter or type in mine or dig or whatever. I somebody counted once, it's almost like 50 or 100 times. It's a ridiculous,
oh god,
it's because there's not gold in every spot, but that don't matter because you need a lot of gold anyway, so it's just bloody, it takes forever. It's not good replayability. So my point is, you really work hard to get to the bloody ending of this game and just do the most menial tasks and whatever, and when you get to the ending, lights, but not really any stories. Yeah, all right, light spoiler. When you get to the ending, you find the person that you're looking for, and backing up, right before the ending, the last scene is that you're in this maze that's a cave and you're mining for gold again in it. I promise I like this game. And
could have fooled me.
It takes bloody forever to get out of the cave with the right amount of gold. And then you just enter like a deeper pocket of the cave. Decent artwork and everything. Nice, pretty scene. You find the person you were looking for way too conveniently in said cave. and the game ends. You know, you've done it. Thanks for playing Gold Rush. And it's just, it's in the spirit of your question in Mass Effect 3. It would only take just a little bit more. Like, show me, even if it was as they ran the credits, like, just show me you and the person you're reunited with in this game back in New York where you started, or doing something with all the gold that you just found. Just something that, like, brighter. Like, don't end the game in a bloody cave. Like, thanks for playing, you know, I promise you're really rich, even though you're covered in, like, coal and whatever, and stuck in the middle of a bloody cave with someone. It doesn't feel like you won the game. It feels kind of grim, is my point.
Right.
So I'm only asking for, like, again, like a, not end credit scene, but like while the credits are rolling or not. But that's how little I need. Just one more shot of us, like, making it back home with our riches, and looking at your, when you get there, you see, like, your 6th grade math teacher said you'd be nothing, and you're like, buddy, look at me now, and whatever, and and then it ends. Like, that's all I need.
So in terms of a game that I would say really just needed, like, the bare minimum just to kind of be satisfying, I have to think of a game I played on the NES, which was a video game adaptation of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was fine and good. I know a lot of people look back and criticize it, and it's not without merit. There is a lot of criticism that it definitely deserves, but, you know, for the time that it came out, when you sat down and played one game for half a year, it was fine at the time, but even then still flawed. And one of the things was, it was really quite... it was very much a companion piece to the movie, in the sense that you kind of really had to have seen the movie to really know what's going on in the game. Like, it doesn't really explain very much to you. There's nothing that really tells you what you're supposed to be doing or what you're supposed to try to achieve if you don't know the story of the movie. But basically, you know, you get to the end and you fight Judge Doom. And me and my best friend spent, like, I don't know how long. It could have been weeks, it could have been months. We spent a long time just on fighting Judge Doom. We had the password that gave us everything to just go straight to him and fight him. And it was just like the hardest, most unbalanced, most unfair battle that kids our age, at least, I'd probably still have troubles playing it today. So when we finally, like, this one time, just like a pure fluke, we finally managed to actually defeat Judge Doom and finish the game, and it gives us a black screen with text that says, "You saved Toontown. The end." And that was it. Like, they couldn't have even just given us, like, a static screen, like a picture, just to illustrate it. Just say, "Congratulations, you saved Toontown," and maybe, like, have a picture of these cartoon characters being happy. That's all. I don't need, like, an elaborate cutscene. Just give us, like, a picture that shows, like, happy tunes, and that's all I would have needed. But they wouldn't even give us that. So yeah, I mean, and granted, there's only so much you can squeeze onto a cartridge of that size, but considering how big the game actually was that they managed to fit onto that cartridge, they really could have just cut something out to make space for one picture.
Yeah, buddy, 4 kilobytes, mate. Come on, that's all. You know, break me off one. That's all. And that is the worst example, again, when you have to work so hard and they just give you a screen and you know, all you need is one more thing. I can kind of bounce off of you with Roger Rabbit and say that Blue Force, a Police Quest style game done by Jim Walls from the original Police Quest games, before the bloody Rodney King guy got in there. That's how you're known, sir. I don't know your name. Anyway, that game...
For the record, it's Daryl F. Gates.
Ah, thank you. Saved everyone a lot of Googling out there.
We kind of have to sometimes pretend like we know what we're talking about since we're a podcast.
So yeah, that's going to be a sacrifice listeners are going to have to make when you're on hiatus, mate. Sorry, Blue Force. Okay, so I told you before we went on air that I was going to mention this one, but I said I wasn't going to mention it. Here I am, because I don't bloody care. Like, it's just, there's so many games like this on my list I won't mention where, yeah, the ending was shit, but, like, the whole game is shit. So, like, does it really matter? Like, I'm not going to give you time to have a better ending for your shit game when you didn't care to begin with. It's so hard to commit. Like, I'm just so excited to walk away from even the memory of certain games that it pains me to go back and do the hard work for them that they didn't give to us. And and that's overly harsh, especially in the case for Blue Force, because it's not a bad game. It's enjoyable. Anyone out there likes Police Quest, I do recommend you play it. It's only like 2.5 hours playtime. But it's a bloody weird game. It's imperfect, obviously, but the ending is the same as Roger Rabbit, where it's just like, hey, you've done that thing you've been trying to do for 2 hours. The end. And like, right in the, just.
Only 2 hours? When I was young again, and this is on the NES again, me and my brother stayed up all night playing Rampage. And there's a little trick to Rampage where if you play 2 players, you have unlimited continues as long as you don't both die at the same time. So as long as one of you is alive and the other one dies, as long as the other one can stay alive long enough for you to crawl off the screen and then continue, you can pretty much play indefinitely until the end of the game. And seriously, this game has like so many levels, I can't even count them all. I think it's like every single capital city in the world has its own level or something like that. And for some reason, just, us being kids, we were determined to find the ending of this game because we were like, oh, it can't be that much longer, right? It's after this one, right? There's only like maybe a couple more levels. No, it took us hours to get through this. There's no way anyone could have done this like single player. Honestly. So I get the feeling like no one was ever meant to see the end of the game, because once they ran out of cities and had no more excuses to keep you playing, it was just a black screen that said congratulations.
Oh God,
and that was
painful.
it. Like, in a game about giant monsters destroying cities across the world, they couldn't come up with even a few words more than just congratulations.
Yeah, no.
Because at least Roger Rabbit said we saved Toontown. This one didn't even bother to say you destroyed the world.
It ends on some sort of internal crisis where it's like you finished the game, but what does that or anything else matter? One day the sun's gonna die and everything will drift off into a frozen wasteland. Nobody has a legacy. Nothing matters. The end. Thanks for playing Rampage.
I would have taken that over congratulations.
I really brought myself down saying that. It started out as a joke. It got kind of real. I need to cheer up. No, I will say I never made it to the end, but I loved Rampage. That was my me and my friends, that was like a Stranger Things thing. Like, we would get on our bikes and actually go to the bowling alley just to play Rampage in there. So that was the most late 80s, early 90s things that I've ever done in my life, was going to play Rampage like every day until it got old.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a wonderful game in small doses.
Yeah.
And this game did not believe in small doses if you wanted to finish it.
Yeah, exactly. God, that is really bad though. That's the ones we've mentioned prior don't need much, but that one needs the least. Like you said, if you could just be like, okay, you've taken over the world, good job. You live in a monkey yacht now. That's awesome. Anything, just some sort of bone. Just ugh. I guess I can say, at least with arcades, especially public, back in the day, there was like leaderboards and stuff like that. If it's any, but that's no excuse. All right, we'll move on. You want to go next? I guess you just went. All right, I got one here. It's buddy, which one? I'm gonna go with Space Quest 6 next on my list. I love this game. I know it's not by far not the most popular Space Quest game at all. Probably, maybe even the least favorite of the lot. I maintain that's probably 2. But anyway, I really like this game.
I kind of agree with that.
What, with 6 or 2?
Actually, well, you know what? They're kind of tied. At least I bothered to finish 2.
Oh. Got him. That was good.
But I was also motivated to finish 2 because 3, 4, and 5 are awesome. So I was like, well, I gotta do this to connect the dots.
Right.
I did play it like in hindsight. Like, I did play 1, 3, 4, 5, and then went back and played 2, and then after 6 came out, I played 6, and I was sort of like, I don't have any reason to continue with this.
Yeah, it's I will say really quick on too. Imagine like you have a whole team behind you. You can create any space adventure you want. You can go to any far out galaxy or planet or environment ever with any sort of exotic alien, and they're like, "Hey,
Mhm.
let's put this game in a regular jungle with monkeys." Like, fuck off, mate. You had the whole universe to work with. That's why it gets me. I
Yeah.
still love it. I love.
I, I will say this about Space Quest 6 though, there were good things about it. Like the humor was actually really good. The humor was really good or really bad for me. Like there
Yeah.
was parts I
Oof.
really liked and parts I really didn't like. But it had its high moments, but it just wasn't enough to keep me interested somehow in the end.
Yeah, I think Gary Owens did so much for that game, and if anyone out there, if you own a copy of the game, like on Steam or physically, whatever, you can download Phil Fortier's SCI companion. Bloody brilliant, brilliant piece of work. And go take a look at the audio files because there's a bunch in this on the CD, and then download a bunch of Gary Owens outtakes that they didn't use, and some of them are nasty. They're really funny. Really oddly inappropriate, especially in his voice. But I recommend that. It's a lot of fun. You can probably just find them online too. But anyway, so my thing with 6 is that 5 does this thing where it's like, hey, we've been running a series of games with a pretty consistent story arc and continuity, and we're going to wrap it up neatly with involving your wife and your son. And then the same team that done that game, I love you lot, and I do love 6, but the same team that done that game, it's like they had like temporary amnesia, and they completely forgot that 5 ends really wrapped up and that you're with a wife. And then 6 starts where you're just like the cavalier, like go get 'em bachelor sort of attitude, and you just start like hitting on this girl, Stellar, and then you make a thing of it. And they never, from I've heard other people complain about it, so while I may be missing a thing here or there, it's just really odd. They had it so perfectly wrapped up. I'm not saying they shouldn't have made another one, but just remember that he's married would be a good start. And instead he falls for this girl with like a pack of hot dogs on her forehead. It's really strange stuff, mate. And it's what really gets me about it, besides it, like everything wrapped up nicely, and this game just basically came in, asked a bunch of questions it didn't answer, and then collapsed with Sierra, unfortunately, and we were robbed of some sort of explanation. But my point is, long story short, it's not so much how I changed the ending, because the ending's fine. It's changing, you're making the ending of a series better, I guess, is my attempt here. And that's just all you'd have to do is go in and take out the romantic thing with you and Stellar. Like, she's kind of crucial to the stories, but the love part is so not. And they wouldn't even really have to mention the wife in the story. It could just be like a one-shot standalone Roger Wilco adventure. It'd all be fine. It's just they went ahead and made him into her. And now, therefore, even though that doesn't happen at the end, now the ending is really frustrating. It's an eternal cliffhanger. So I don't know. Can you think of any game that ended on a cliffhanger? Like in a well, I guess that's always a bad thing. But yeah, on that note, as far as bad endings, have you ever been just completely bailed on, like we were with Space Quest 6? No, that was our fault.
I can't claim this for my own, but I hear tell that Half-Life 2 or Episode 2 or one of the twos of Half-Life ended on a cliffhanger that just never came about because, as we know, Half-Life 3 is legendarily non-existent. But in terms of my own personal experience, not so much on cliffhangers, but if I have one more game to add onto the list of games that just didn't have an ending when you really deserved an ending, I think I have to name Syndicate as probably my number one because I love Syndicate. It was an amazing game. You've all heard me talk about it at length, or not at length, but you've heard me not shut up about it in previous episodes. And it's such a good game, especially for its time. And it was difficult. It got really difficult towards the end. But just, the story of Syndicate is that you're going around conquering like pretty much country by country until you take over the world. And, each time you finish a level, there's like a parade in the streets, like a dark, dismal. It doesn't even look very happy, but there's just like a dark celebration in the streets, and a blimp flies overhead. It says, welcome to the dawning of a new era. And it's all really kind of ominous more so than happy. So finally, you get to the final level, you finish it, and it's a really hard level, like really difficult to beat if you, especially the first few times you try it. And finally, you win, and then it plays that same clip, the same old "Welcome to the dawning of a new era," and then whereas normally it would move on to the map screen again, it just fades to gray, and that's it. Like, I can't remember if it even says congratulations or not. The most you'll get would have been congratulations, and I'm not even sure if it gave you that. I think it just sort of like faded, to the best of my recollection, it faded to gray, and that was just it.
It's like the equivalent of like being thrown a towel and called a cab. With no eye contact, just get out, dude.
Yeah.
The game just treats you like. I can't. The only way to expand on that is filthy. I'll leave it there. But yeah, that's it. In other words, the game makes you feel like a slut. Is what I'm trying to say. I don't know what I'm trying to say anymore now that I've spelled it out. Bloody hell.
Oh, sorry, and I should also say, because people, especially amongst classic gamers, everyone's going to complain about me not mentioning this one, so I'm mentioning it. I just never actually played Monkey Island 2. I know what the ending is. I just not well enough to really describe it with any real accuracy. I know it just it upset a lot of the fans because it was otherwise like an amazing game from what I hear. I admit I haven't played it, but it basically comes down to the entire game might have been make believe.
See, I feel like you specifically probably wouldn't like that because it's almost a prelude into what Thimbleweed became. Which obviously I love, but it's like they kind of looked in the old rule book and were like, remember when we just insinuated it was all whatever? Let's actually just have them bloody make it all whatever. Which I do love the ending too, but
you've already kind of alluded to this, so I'm just going to really just throw this one away, but just throw it out there. I've mentioned before, but it's been quite some time ago now since I've mentioned it, but I think that the ending of Loom is perfect. I'm glad that there's no sequel. I'm glad it didn't end any differently. Loom should be one game as it is. It's perfect. I refuse to have any change or addition to the end as it is right now. So I know a lot of you are thinking Loom. I disagree categorically. Anyways, moving on.
Oh, that was venomous. Like, if I wanted to say something about that,
it was
I
poisonous.
would not now. Yeah, that was terrifying, mate. I've already had my go at it, but for anyone else, they're like, yeah, never mind. He's bloody serious about this.
I will cut you.
Well, I'll segue into a quick one. This could take Loom's place because the dig has an ending that just simply, it's not a bad ending, but it calls for a sequel, like very blatantly. What do they call it? Sequel baiting? I'm not sure. I'm sort of baiting.
Cliffhanger?
Yeah, there we go. That's a much less sexual way of putting it. Yes. So, buddy, you get to the end. Spoilers for the dig. You get to the end, and before you step into like a triangle for some reason, there's an alien. And by the way, there's way too much geometry in this whole game. It's just too many bloody shapes and shape-based puzzles. I love the game. The story's awesome. I've said before that the movie Armageddon, the script for that should have been the dig script. It's really good. It was actually
good point.
It was actually written by Alan Dean Foster, I believe his name is, and he wrote a lot of great Star Wars books and things. I think that's I said that to give him notoriety. I can't validate anyway.
All right.
But so how it ends, you meet this great alien force because you are on a planet that blatantly has life on it. You just can't find them yet throughout the entire game. So it's not a big spoiler to say you find them. And literally the last 2 minutes of the game is all this guy gets, and he basically just says that that I'm glad we met, and together humans and us will do amazing things. Like, it's a very grandiose statement. He's basically saying like, hey, wink wink, we're basically going to come back to Earth with you and like enlighten the entire human race. That's the vibe. And it's cool if it was going to be a sequel, which they tried to make, and it never got finished. But point is that that's just a game that like some people think Loom is, not me. Bloody take it easy, mate. that's a game that I think really does need a sequel, because it's a pretty exciting ending, and you really, at that point, I really love the story, so you really kind of care what happens, and you almost feel like the best part's yet to come, like the bit where the aliens come to Earth with you, and we all have to deal with that and see how that goes down. That almost sounds as fun or more fun. So anyway, this is a game that needs a sequel.
Okay. So, I'm not sure because there is a lot of editing that goes into each of these episodes. So I'm not sure exactly what, how long this episode has run up until now. But I will let you, the audience, know that we have been recording for about an hour now, and we have just gotten through our honorable mentions. So, I don't know. I'd like to try to keep these episodes down to about 35 to 45 minutes or around that general area. But you know what? It's been a long time since we've heard Paul's voice, and it'll be a little while before you hear my voice again. If we run a little bit over time, I think we might as well just run a little bit over time. So, sorry if we dragged our throwaway entries to the hour mark, but now we're going to get to the actual answering the question and the point of the show, which is, if you could change the ending to any game, which game would you choose, and how would you change it?
The best part is, without your direction, we would have never gotten here. And then, ironically, the episode about endings being shit or non-existent, this podcast would have never addressed the bloody question and had no ending.
I wish I could change the ending to this podcast.
Alright, so while you're gone, I'm going to have to actually take some notes for these bloody things, huh? Alright. But anyway, do you want to kick it off?
I'll go first, just because mine is probably the one that's going to upset people the most. And I'm going to say right now that the reason why I kind of thought this would kind of be my headliner entry in this is because I actually don't even think the original ending is bad. I actually really like this game. If you listen to last week's episode, we talked about Leisure Suit Larry, and I've said on record that Leisure Suit Larry 1 I really liked. And thankfully we did that episode last week, because that's what brought it fresh into my mind for when I had to think of an answer to this one. And so, you were there in the brainstorming when I was thinking over ideas. It took me a while to come up with something that I was satisfied with. And in the end, I started like, oh, wait a minute, because I was just happened to be thinking about the last episode, and I thought of Leisure Suit Larry. I was like, you know what? As much as I like Leisure Suit Larry, I think if I was going to change an ending, I'm going to change that one, and here's why. What I've always interpreted as the point of Leisure Suit Larry in the first game was that Larry Laffer was a loser. He wasn't this sleazy kind of thinks he's a player kind of guy. He was a loser. Like, he knew he was a loser. It was on the evening of his he was 39 turning 40. It was the last day of his 30s, and he was a virgin, and he wanted to prove to himself that he wasn't a loser, and he could. The only way for him to really feel any self-worth was to lose his virginity before he was 40, because that was, especially at that time, particularly, that was the mark of a loser, is that if you were a virgin, especially into later in your life, especially if you hit 40 and you've never, been with a woman or whatever you're into. And
dogs.
You had to go there.
I didn't think I didn't think you'd leave me so much silence. I thought it was just gonna be like a little Easter egg of a statement. It's like when the whole bloody restaurant goes silent before you toot or whatever. You said whatever we're into. Don't bloody judge me. It's 2019.
I'm not judging. I'm laughing at you.
You should be judging if I was telling the truth, though. That is pretty like call the authorities sort of thing. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it wouldn't be for me to judge. It would be for the judge to judge. So I and like I said, it was good because I liked the focus of that game, where it's that kind of American Pie kind of thing, where it's like, well, we have to. Or Larry has to lose his virginity before he's 40, and he goes about and he does that, and that's his goal, and that's what he accomplishes by the end. Very straightforward, very focused, and it's all the better for that. But I really read up a lot on screenwriting because I was at one point an aspiring writer, and I've read all sorts of different things and books and essays on story structures and plotting and screenwriting and stuff like that. One thing that was mentioned was that what the character originally wants turns out to not be what the character needs, and the story is about the character in pursuit of what they want and finding what they need. So I think it would be interesting if Leisure Suit Larry, on he has to prove his self-worth by getting laid, but by the end of it he doesn't, and realizes that he doesn't need that to prove his self-worth, that he can still be proud of who he is without having it be about sex. And I think that would have been a interesting, different take on the story. Not saying that the first game, the original ending, wasn't already a pretty perfect unit in and of itself. I just think that this could have been pretty interesting. I would have liked to have seen if they had tried going that direction.
I really like. We didn't discuss this one ahead of time, so I'm hearing it for the first time in genuine kind of awe, because that's really cool for two reasons. I like that a lot better. Like you said, the game is fine on its own. I wouldn't have said in a million years something was wrong with the ending in that game until you said what you just said. But there's two things about Larry. I like the games, but they do to me have a kind of like plasticky vibe, like a shallow kind of vibe. And I don't mean ironic. I really don't mean like the context of the game. I know because it's sexual and punny that it can be considered hollow to some people who don't like that. I'm well into that stuff. That's great. I know that's totally fine. It's just like the substance, like the fulfillment in playing those games, just for me personally, while I do like them, isn't as much as some of the other Sierra counterparts. And that almost kind of answers why, in a sense. Like it's easy to feel unsatisfied when anything you just get what you want, sort of thing, instead of finding what you need. And I can relate to it, especially. I'll keep this bloody short because I don't think anyone's seen this film. But there's a movie called Ugly Dolls. My son loves it. I've had to watch it like 50 times. It's kind of a Toy Story knockoff. Point is, throughout this whole journey of this film, I was just thinking this the other day, throughout the whole journey of this film, it's basically, the doll who came to life wants to find a real human. There's a lot of Toy Story shit ripped off. But throughout the whole journey, like, she learns that she's like actually beautiful as she is, and the friends around her are well good enough. And like, that's what you need. It's like, I thought the ending was going to teach kids, like, sometimes everything's right. Everything that you need is already there. Stop, always trying to find better and better, and stop and appreciate what you do have. And then at the very end of the movie, if 5 minutes left, she finds a girl through some ridiculous plot thing, and I was like, I don't know if that's the right message. Like, it didn't make sense for her to even leave her friends. Like, even that part of the film felt weird. It's like, those are her mates. They've been through this whole journey with them, and she's just like, okay, fuck off. Here's a strange kid. Like, it's really weird. And until you put it in such nice wording, I didn't realize that's the same problem with that. Is that she got what she wanted, not what she needed, and it left me feeling unfulfilled. So I bloody relate to that,
right,
through film and other media.
Yeah, so I mean that's basically it. I just think, like, imagine how subversive that would have been, if, especially at the time it came out, like the 80s. It was perfectly in tune to have a game like this, where it's really, okay, I need to get laid, and he gets laid, and that's fine. And like I said, I have no complaints about that in any way, especially given the context of the time that it came out in. But just imagine how subversive it would have been if a game in the 80s said, like, hey, you know what? You turned 40, you're a virgin, but that's okay. That's not what determines if you should be happy with yourself. He should have done something. He should have, like, there should be something that it leads up to in the end to make him feel that way. But he should have, I think it would have been interesting if he found something, like found a different ending that made him feel good about himself without needing something like just, oh, I had sex.
Right, yeah, no.
And actually, here's another thing that I just thought of, like, right now. Because one of the things about Leisure Suit Larry 1 is that, you do have the opportunity from very early in the game, as long as you have enough money, to pay a prostitute to have sex with you. As you do with prostitutes, I guess. And
allegedly.
And yeah, and he says, like, okay, even though it was, your goal to have sex before you're 40, he said, just having to pay for it was very unfulfilling, and it doesn't really, fill the void. It doesn't, you don't really feel like you earned it, kind of thing. So it goes to show that he has more to it he has more invested than just the sex as a physical act. He needed to prove himself that he could, like, win somebody over, right?
Right.
But how does he win Eve in the end? He gives her an apple and she sleeps with him.
It was bloody apples, am I right?
That was so the message of the game in a certain way, if we want to spin it in this direction, and I'm not criticizing it. I like the game. Trust me, I do really like the game. But they're basically saying he should have just found he just needed somebody hotter and cheaper. Right. Because it's basically the same thing. You just, instead of giving money, you gave an apple, and just the Eve is hotter than the prostitute, and that's the only difference between renting the hooker at the beginning and sleeping with the hot chick at the end.
Yeah, the apple's just like symbolically money, so you're basically still paying for it. Without that apple, it ain't going down, mate. I'm sorry, there's still an exchange for services there.
He did nothing to win her over.
No, they might as well. They could have just been like, "Buddy, you're a 40-year-old virgin. Here's Seth Rogen and Paul Rudd, and they're gonna work this out for you." I don't know.
So it's like it's not even about like losing your virginity before you're 40. It's more like just you need to score a 10,
right?
Or you're nothing, right?
Yeah, they take all forms of payment, including fruit, for some reason. That's just no. I really like your take on it. I felt like I was being a little negative in description, so I do have to say to everyone, I do actually genuinely love Leisure Suit Larry. If I didn't, I would tell you, like, that bloody board game that's not a board game or a video game, I won't even call it by its name. That was very very Dr. Seuss like there. I didn't mean for that all to rhyme. Yeah, no, that's a good one, mate. I like that. All right, I'm gonna go with mine. I've got Police Quest 2, which is one of both of our favorite games of all time. Why would I bloody pick on this game?
How would you change the ending to Police Quest 2? You want Jesse Baines to win?
No, but I like shooting him, as a matter of fact, and I think it's refreshing. You get to finally bloody shoot someone. I hate when games are just like, he's in jail, don't worry, he hates it there. Like, no, I want to end it, mate, before I walk away. So no, I wouldn't change that. I wouldn't change much of anything, except for I would want some more glory to our main man, Keith. I think that they missed a real opportunity here to have Keith # Next Avenger or some shit. Whatever Buddy said a few episodes ago. I want Keith to have his moment, and what this game done was they overlooked one really dramatic part of the game. There's a main story and then a side story, right? Popular sort of way to go about it. I love it. Only thing is that in the main story, they're like, hey, this guy who you don't like, he's but he's selling drugs to kids and stuff, and or maybe not even kids. He's just selling drugs, and that's wrong, except for in certain states where it's not, because this place is not that united. It's super weird. British guy shouldn't have said that.
To be fair, in Police Quest 2, Death Angel is living up to his name a little bit more. He is actually killing everyone that you know and love.
That's true. I guess, and from my point, I don't even really need to diminish, his criminal act, because I've got something that trumps it, that's right under everyone's bloody nose, and that's the fact that your tiny little side story, besides just getting one guy, is to save an entire airplane full of passengers from a terrorist attack. But anyway, I guess basic point is, saving like some people from dying in a plane crash compared to, a street criminal is a much larger achievement. And Sonny Bonds gets to do it all, but Captain America over here, he's like the Boy Scout. He gets all the credit because, in his defense, he does do everything. Even though Keith is on the airplane, he kind of just Keiths off. And that should be a new term. Why don't you keep off, mate? At one point, he's like, "I'll bloody go look in the cockpit for a cell phone or something," and he comes back and he's like, "Well, Sonny, you saved the day again. I don't know if I could have done it without you." And it's like, I know you bloody couldn't have. You don't do nothing without me. And so anyway, Sonny Bonds becomes a local hero and a national hero in one day. They never mention the plane thing. Like, it's not really part of the rest of the story. The rest of the story is just like...
That's right. They never bring that up again.
They never go back. Exactly. They're just like, hey, town, here's the key to the town and whatever. You're bloody hero. We all love you. You got Jesse. And he's like, yeah, I got Jesse. That's great and all. But did you hear about the plane, mate? Yeah, I actually de-armed like 2 highly intelligent terrorists who were able to sneak firearms onto an airplane.
And disarm the bomb.
Yeah, and disarm the bomb. Exactly.
It's like you stopped 9/11 like 10 years earlier, and you'll never get the credit for it.
Exactly. It was that big of a deal. It literally
we got 10 more good years before 9/11 thanks to Sonny Bonds.
Have you ever heard of the horrible national tragedy called 889? No, you bloody haven't, because Sonny Bonds stopped it from happening. So anyway, what they should have done is, instead of having Keith just muck off having a cigarette again, even on the airplane, he's insatiable. He does nothing, and again, which is fine. But like that could have been Keith's bloody moment to save the day, and then if they just gave him like, maybe he defused the bomb, something, and Sonny could have been like, oh, this poor sod. Like when we land, mate, I'm gonna tell him that you've done all this, something. But, all right, and I'll drop the key thing. I would just say for the ending, buddy, just mention the plane thing at all, like something about that whole plane bit.
I just I think it would be hilarious if they wanted to go that way, to actually like give Keith the credit, because it's kind of funny, because now that you mention it, Keith, yeah, he was on the airplane with you. And when 2 terrorists hijacked the plane, I think they're just like trying to take it to go back to their home country or something like that. I don't think they're actually going to like run it into anything, but they just wanted to go back home, and but they hold everyone up. They have a bomb on board. They have guns and everything, and that's still not enough to call Keith to action. Like, he's still just sitting there, and if you don't do anything, he's totally fine with the events that are unraveling around him.
He's oddly stoic throughout the entire situation. Do you think he's like, put a cigarette out? Well, then he's always smoking, probably when we're smoking under stress, but...
It'd be cool if, actually it'd be interesting if, like, because I know there is a way to lose the game if you don't do anything to stop the terrorists. If you just sit there and you don't do nothing, you eventually reach their home country, and it says like, oh, well, game over. But it would have been cool if you don't do anything, then eventually Keith is the one who just jumps into action and takes over, because like you weren't going to do it, so you had all your opportunities to be the hero, so he eventually has to step in. There you go. That would have been cool, but it's a moot point, because no one became a hero out of this anyways. Yeah. They just, like you said, they forgot about it. They're just like, but he killed a guy.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a...
it's like Sonny killed a guy, so he's a hero. But what about those guys? We never heard of
here's
that.
A bloody $25 gift card to Applebee's. Thanks.
It's like that never reached the news, It's like swept the bodies under the rug or something.
But the game's devilish, because we've both probably played it multiple times. It takes a while for that to even click. Well, I can speak for myself, sort of thing. But it takes a while for that to click, really, where it's like, wait a minute, what about that whole plane fiasco? That was a mess. Well, we actually carried that really nicely, and yeah. So I like your way to do it, though. Like you said, if you do nothing, Keith does it. Because, I mean, come on, Sarah, there's plenty of chances to die in the game. You can just, let this one go. Bloody hell. And that way it's like Keith can either have his moment, or you can be, as greedy with Sonny as you want and take it all. So that would have been a good way to do it. But
I approve of this. It'd be great if, like, at the end of it, like, you kill Jesse Baines, and the ending is all like a big celebration for Keith because he stopped the terrorists.
That would be awesome. Yeah, because the player's gone through 2 games worth of being Sonny Hunt looking for one guy. This bloody useless guy who does nothing ever, like trips a terrorist by accident and saves the day. You're like, what the hell?
It's like, yeah. I mean, the rest of the game still happens. You like kill Jesse Baines and everything. You like save your wife. Then you climb out, being all like, "Yeah, I stopped the bad guy," and you're like, "Hooray! 3 cheers for Keith! He stopped the terrorists from blowing up a plane full of people." You know.
That would be awesome. Be like, guess what, Sonny? Now you're Keith's partner. The end. Thanks for playing, please. That'd be great. I would have loved to see it. I would have loved Keith to get his own little spin-off series too.
Keith's Quest.
Yes, in fact. And I hope now that you birthed that into the universe, that somewhere in some other dimension or reality, that is a thing. Maybe even instead of Police Quest. I'd be okay with that.
Yeah. Julia, stop working on Crimson Diamond. Work on Keith's Quest right now.
Maybe I don't know. He could like he sees like a wanted sign for like a new Robin, and he goes up and meets Batman. I don't know. I really want Keith to be a superhero for some reason. I just feel like he's the Hawkeye we never got. Yeah. Yeah, he really is. Bloody Marlboro man.
Defeating villains with secondhand smoke. Over time, you could get cancer. Long after I do.
Now just wait 70 years for victory.
Your medical bills are going to be so high. You're going to have to commit more crimes just to afford to pay your bills. Oh, wait.
Oh, Keith, you bastard. He is the gaming world's Loki. He's a bastard, but we love him.
Anyways.
Abusive relationship.
Yeah. That was good. I approve of those changes.
I think we've done some good work here today.
Yeah, I think we can wrap this one up. I think there's nothing else to say, except to say that, we haven't played every single game out there. We haven't even played all the popular ones. If you're thinking of a game that you think deserves a better ending, or that you think, just, needs a different ending for whatever reason, write comments, emails, let us know. We're on Facebook, Classic Gamers Guild. We have a Facebook page and a group. Find us on Twitter at the CG Guild. We have an email address, mail@classicgamersguild.com. If you want to send us like hate mail, you can kind of do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but I mean, I'll take anything at this point. But until, but otherwise, I think that's about it for today. And like I said, this will be the last time you hear my voice for a little while. I will still be doing a little bit behind the scenes in more of a in more of a consultant capacity. I will be helping Paul a lot with as he needs in keeping the podcast going in my absence. But I will, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I will be taking a little bit of time off from being an on-air presence on the show. So I will, but I will be back. So I will hear for you will hear. But I will be back, so you will hear from me before long.
Well, Missy, mate, I will try and keep you, the listeners, as entertained as possible. We'll get on guests, we'll talk about ridiculous things, and we'll get through this until Daddy comes back with milk and bread or whatever. Oh, that sounded weird. I'm just
going to the store for cigarettes.
That's awesome. Can't even get mad at him. All right, yeah. So anyway, everybody, we love you. He'll be back soon. I'll make sure bloody that. And he'll have played Cathy Rain too when he comes back. But I will keep you entertained and listen for some awesome guests and whatever. Even if it's me with like a sock puppet. I will diverge into separate personalities if I have to keep you entertained. So we'll be fine.
I will be back whether you like it or not. But I really am looking forward to seeing Paul at the helm. I think, like I said before, I think it'll be a really good learning experience for both of us. I think there's a lot I can learn from seeing a Paul run show. I think Paul can learn a lot from dabbling a lot more at the behind the scenes stuff that I've been taking care of. And I think in the end, when I do get back, I think we'll be like 10 times better for it.
Oh, shit. All right. Well, until then, we love you a lot. And Rick will miss you. I can't wait for you to come back already.
You know, if anyone had initially been sad to see me go, now they're like really wanting me to just shut up now. You're like, just leave. Just get over it. Just get it over with. Just leave now. We're done. All right. Thanks everybody out there. I've been, this has been a great time, and I will see you very soon.
Don't do murder.